Video number 3. What is stress? I kind of looked it up. So stress is a constraining force or influence, a pressure or weight. So not all stress is bad. Stress is actually momentary stress in our lives. That car alarm is okay. It tells us, hey, get out of the way to avoid an accident. Or let's go study really hard for this exam. Okay, so stress is okay. In other words, a life of normal and then stress, periodic stress, and that's normal. However, what if you're in a situation, and that's what we're talking about, with trauma, chronic baseline trauma. When your heart is bent toward justice and you feel the weight, there's that stress of what has changed, what has not changed, people suffering. And you are so tired of fighting a fight that keeps taking on new shapes. Sound familiar? It does not make you weak when your tired heart, very fatigued, is broken. Do not let them shame you because your wounds are still open. So with trauma, the wound is emotional and mental and physical internally. It's not visible. When a soldier like me comes back from, Desert Storm War, I was wounded, but visually you couldn't see it, could you? But it showed up in all the relationships, So that's what we're talking about. So that chronic stress, that's what I'm all about, is how do we handle the chronic traumatic stress that is ongoing? Because many times we're in a situation where you can't change where you are. So what can you do? Because like Viktor Frankl says, when we are in a situation that we cannot change, then we are challenged. That is the opportunity for us then to actually change ourselves. And that's my guiding principle, and that is why I do what I do, all right, as a coach. And as all the other things that I do. So number 1 is because trauma, it definitely affects the brain. So now that you are actually hypervigilant, all right? So I wanted to introduce this part, which is just important that we have understand this, that there is a normal level of arousal, okay? Or we actually call it the zone of tolerance, or the normal zone. This is when your nervous system is actually kind of calm, like a nice river. So this is where we want to stay. This is when our nervous system is good. But it's when we are bumped up from continuous processed or discharged trauma that we become hypervigilant. Actually, the brain becomes hypervigilant, looks for threats at all times, and will actually, basically overreact, even hysterically, over little things. Or you bump down to the hypo-aroused state, and that's when you get kind of sad, depressed, numb, or even suicidal. So those are the phases. So what do we do about the nervous system? What is the nervous system? Well, there are 2 parts to it. One is called the sympathetic nervous system, and I like to call that the S, right? S for stress, that's what S for stress. And then the second system is the parasympathetic nervous system, and that is, I like to coin peace, because I like that. That's the peace zone. So when we are stuck in the stress mode, how do we get back to the peace mode? And that is where the neuroplasticity, that's where rewiring the brain really comes into play. And there's so many theories out there, and I actually like to do the mind, body, and spirit. So I addressed it very holistically. So with the mind, I like to go with mindfulness practices, and there's so many, and we're going to dive into that. And that's with basically being aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, the meanings you're assigning to things, the attitudes or preferences or prejudices we all have, and then what are we really choosing? And do we really have a free choice, or are we just automatically following our triggered beep, beep, beep stress response that's been stuck? Okay? It's not back in this zone anymore. It's stuck up here, high, right? Hyper-aroused or hypo-aroused. So how do we get there? So that's number 1 is mindfulness, right? And that's with cognitive behavior theory and all the other theories, right, that I will teach and share. Number 2 is the body, and this is pivotal. We are created as mind, body, and spirit. You cannot forget the body if you really want to have wholeness. All right, so just talk about your trauma, that actually is not going to be helpful. That's not the way our mind, body, and spirit was connected. So you're missing huge parts, okay, of your healing journey, all right? So with the physical, what I like is the polyvagal techniques, EFT, the energy medicine, and the list just actually keeps going. Because I created a course to address stress because people were really suffering from feelings of anxiousness and actually having panic attacks. So I created a course in Mastermind a year ago. But that was a year ago. And I'm going to be updating that because I've got so much more to give. A year later. So anyway, so that's the physical part. And the third part is spiritual. And that one's really important because we have to have a resource that's greater than ourselves. You can call it whatever you believe, and it's because that's what is going to work for you. I personally believe in a Father God, Creator. So that's my resource. So that is my spiritual connection. So when we're talking about affirmations, verbal affirmations, why do some work and some don't? That's because you're missing that one element. You've got to have this resource. Okay. In other words, you can just say anything, but it doesn't really get to here. It's 18 inches between your head and your heart. Okay, and your soul. So for me, the I am statements are so amazing. And we tackle that. That's where the cognition and the reframing and actually restructuring your authentic self, your identity to what you were born to be. This is the way you were when you were a baby. But then life and culture and, whatever influences kind of diverted all of us, right, from our authentic self. So that is what we're working on. So yeah, mind, body, and spirit. So those are the 3 pillars to it. And again, we just want to get into that zone of peace again, right? Getting into the peace zone. And yeah, I don't want to make this one too long. So I am going to talk about the next skills in the next video number 4. Woo! Bring on the hammer. If you've seen some of my videos before, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, also, live workshop this Sunday and this Monday. So join me, and you are blessed. Remember, we're working on moving from the chronic stress, learning how to process it and discharge it, right, from the mind, body, and spirit, so we can be free and healthy. And so we can stay in that peace zone, go back into that peace zone, that zone of tolerance, that normal zone, that our nervous system is actually meant to function in and functions in the most healthy way, because that affects our immune system, our inflammatory system, because it affects all of our hormones, right, and all the chemicals, right, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all the endorphins, just everything. You are blessed. Shalom, peace. Shalom means wholeness. Wholeness. Shalom, peace. You are blessed.